Protesters turning violent this weekend at yet another No Kings rally in L.A. Agitators hurling bricks and threatening officers. One person even spray painted "Kill your local ICE agent" on the side of a federal building. In Portland, activists breaking through ICE facility and reportedly burning American flags. But the communist hammer and sickle flag was flying very proudly. Celebrities and hippies out in full force warning about the future of the country. And of course, there was singing.
We are resistance grannies, tearing off their fannies.
King Trump's private army from the DHS, guns belted to their coats.
I think that the rest of the world looks at us and is so horrified.
This is what incompetency and unchecked power looks like. It is reckless, it is dangerous.
Trump has to be stopped. And that's what No Kings is all about, because he can't do all the up things that he's been doing.
But one Democrat lawmaker seemed to undercut the message. Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono posting that Donald Trump is not, never will be, and has never been a king. Hashtag No Kings. I was like, wait, did she realize what she just did there? Greg, you know your least favorite question every Monday?
What is it? Data!
When somebody says, what'd you do this weekend?
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, if you were asking anybody around here, what'd you do this weekend? They're like, oh, yeah, I went to the No Kings protest.
By the way.
That's what you did on your weekend?
By the way, no, I went around and asked people who are not, work at Fox, friends of mine, whatever. Hard to believe I have them. Nobody even knew that this was going on. The only reason why we know this is because we get tons and tons of clips on X that are absolutely hilarious. The Mad Max lady, we're covering her tonight on my show. But, I mean, this is what this really is. This is group therapy designed as public theater. And what does it accomplish? It doesn't accomplish anything because, like, the very worst self-help, it's self-indulgent. If you were to observe it, you don't come out of it as an outsider and think, wow, that made my day better. I'm persuaded. I look at, this is the actual opposite of persuasive. You see this and you go, I don't want to be part of that. The Free Britney movement was more inspirational than this. But it's like it's not about being inspirational. It is about being seen. And that has always been a thing that you hear. I want to be seen. And so more and more of this movement is about your identity, what you decide to be, and it's an expression of self, a tantrum about me. And it was well-funded, and it's well-organized. Of course, Soros led the whole campaign. It's billions and billions of dollars. So this is nowhere, this is the opposite of Iranian men and women protesting for actual freedom. These are people, generally elderly, sad people who need something in their lives that grandkids don't have. You got people like De Niro and Fonda whose last gasp for relevance is here. It's all, like, all the messages are all consistent. It's a gasp with no specifics underneath it, and I enjoyed every minute of it!
Jesse, they took place in deep blue cities where no Republican has a chance of winning anyway, and it's really showing the extreme elements of the Democratic Party. Also, the point that Greg brought up, that there's this one billionaire in China, and he funds a lot of it.
Yeah, I just want to hear Greg do Bruce. Can we do that again?
Billionaires!
Yes!
Ah, China data, you've never been hotter!
It was like Bruce Trump. All right, so, yeah, No Kings. Biden was in power for 50 years.
Yeah.
They stole his votes, gave him the Kamala, then crowned her queen. Come on. They built a censorship machine. You couldn't even tell a joke about how stupid Fauci was. And then they shut down all the schools. Some lady tried to give somebody a trim at a salon. They threw her in prison. They tried to throw Trump in prison. They charged him like 100,000 times. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard. They are like the real blue bloods. That's what's going on here. Democrats believe they are born with the natural right to rule. And anytime they lose an election, they have a panic attack. It's always a crisis when they're not in power. Every time Trump beats them, democracy's under assault. Come on. Hillary accused him of stealing the election in 2016, called him an illegitimate president. And then they just took out all their street teams, BLM, Antifa, the ICE mommies, always trying to sink him with the deep state, leak his tax returns. They tried to kill Kavanaugh. Remember? After they couldn't kill his reputation, they tried to kill Kavanaugh. So now they're promising when they get back in power, they're not going to be kings at all. No, they're just going to pack the court. They're just going to make D.C. and Puerto Rico a state. Mass amnesty, mass arrests of ICE agents. Other than that, I thought the rally was great.
And Jessica, there's obviously a lot of energy. Is it good energy or bad energy for the Democrats in the long run?
So far, it looks like good energy. It looks like the kind of energy that shows up to vote, which is my favorite kind of energy.
These are probably high propensity voters anyway, right?
Sure, but we know that, no, well, the grandmas in Pikachu costumes are definitely not getting paid. We know that when you're more engaged in the political process for a longer amount of time, then you definitively show up to vote. People kicking in fences and things like that, I don't know about it if they're going to be there in November. But the reality is that the No Kings movement, the last time that there was a protest, had about 6 million people. Now it's 8 million people at 3,300 rallies across all 50 states. And actually, 2/3 of them were in suburbs and small towns. 1 of every 50 people who live in America participated in one of these. It's clearly a thing that matters to people. And you see that being recognized not by Jesse or Greg, but by Republicans in Congress. So we have a record high number of electeds on the Republican side retiring early. 36 of them have already announced. Trump's approval is about 40%, if you want to be super generous. And historically speaking, when it's less, you already told me, you have Rasmussen, or the guy in the bow tie. And when the president's approval is below 50%, on average, the party loses 34 seats and the minimum loss of 9 seats. We only need 3 to
Did you go to any of this?
I went in October. I couldn't go on Saturday.
Oh, you couldn't go.
I went in October to see what it was like.
To, do reporting.
No, I did. I mean, I took pictures with Paul Morrow. It was fun to be out there. I like seeing it. I like also seeing what people are there for.
I think the point you made is a good one. Democrats are already more involved in this political theatrics. It's what you guys do. You guys do this.
Have you seen a Trump boat parade
at some point,
or the monster truck rallies?
But what you just said is that you guys do it more. You're more politically engaged, and that's a fact. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, within that world of political engagement, is this good? Right. And when you have men in leather, in wheelchairs, dragging bodies along, and you have other dudes screaming at women that they're women, more women than they are, you have to ask yourself, is this really worth the $3 billion you spent?
Yeah, and the real question is, obviously, as Dana, you pointed out, midterms are always terrible for the party that's in power. This is a really, really horrifying landscape for Republicans. And so the real question is, like, who is actually not in charge of politics generally, but who's in charge of the Democrat Party? And if these are the people who are in charge of the Democrat Party, if this is where the energy of the Democrat Party is, my goodness, I can't think of a better undeserved win for Republicans than this. And when you listen to what these people are talking about, they're talking about open borders, they're talking about abolishing ICE, they're talking about women playing in girls' sports, they're talking about
trans women.
They're talking about stolen land, all kinds of crazy stuff. And if that's who's in charge of the Democrat Party, come November, Republicans who face a horrifying landscape for themselves might actually wind up doing a whole lot better.
There's only 17 competitive seats anyway. Yes, I came up with a number. All right. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.